The most important thing is not that we agree on 100% of the issues, it's that we have a person of character and courage under fire in the Oval Office.
I'm sorry, JD Vance, did you just imply that Donald Trump is the person of character over VP Harris? Donald Trump, the one who has repeatedly put himself over the interests of our country, the one who has repeatedly tried to erode the norms that have existed since the inception of America, the one who is a crybaby, can never admit that he's lost, whether it's the Emmys, whether it's an election or a court case, the one who claims to be a great Christian but can't name a single Bible verse. And by the way, MAGA, can you name me the Bible verse that says, evict the poor, bully the weak, grab women by the you-know-what, and make sure you never ever redistribute wealth. You hoard it all to yourself. Now, I have a few clips of JD Vance to break down today because he says something that I found insulting to my intelligence and your intelligence. He gave a rally in Traverse City, Michigan today. The crowd was bored. Everybody hated their lives. And JD Vance said one thing about Ukraine that I want to thoroughly debunk because democracy abroad is a very important issue to me. And if Donald Trump gets back in office, which right now it is a coin flip, then democracy abroad is at stake. So here's a clip of JD Vance being smug about Ukraine. If you enjoy what I do, leave a like, drop a blue heart, hit that subscribe button, and let's jump in.
Said, and can you detail how a Trump-Vance administration would end the war in Ukraine?
Well, look, the details for how Donald Trump is going to end the war in Ukraine is by not being weak and not being dumb, which is unfortunately something you can't say for the current administration. It's very simple.
Donald Trump's idea of not being weak is ceding Ukrainian land. JD Vance has said it himself. Donald Trump has hinted at it before. They would genuinely give Putin what he wants, and ceding land to somebody who made an authoritarian grab is not a good way to disincentivize from doing that again in the future. And if you watch my show a lot, you know my exact problem with Donald Trump's plan to solve Ukraine-Russia war. His plan is to cede Ukrainian land to Russia and come up with some sort of deal where he applies pressure on Russia and Ukraine at the same time. But the only problem is that if you look at the history of Russia and the way they wage wars, they start wars, pause those wars when it serves those interests, then reignite those wars years later. They did that through the 90s, but we can take 2008, for example, or even better, 2014. Russia invaded Crimea. When they realized they were kind of screwed, they paused the war, they chilled out, and then about 8 years later, they reignited that war again, a full-scale war into Ukraine. So if Trump ceded land, what he would be doing is kicking the can down the road to another administration. Listen to this clip of JD Vance just showing a total lack of empathy.
I've gotten a lot of flack in the last week because I had the audacity to suggest that before our leaders obsess over a Ukrainian and Russian border 6,000 miles away, maybe they better guarantee the sovereignty of their own country and their own border first.
This is the dumbest talking point ever, and JD Vance should know better. This is not an either-or situation. We're primarily sending old military equipment to Ukraine, stockpiled military equipment from the 90s, from the 2000s, and then we get to replace that military equipment and create new American manufacturing jobs. I don't know what JD Vance wants us to do, send artillery down to the border. I mean, we can secure the border if Donald Trump didn't shoot down that Langford bill, and help Ukraine fight off an authoritarian threat before Russia begins to make their way through the rest of Europe. I mean, imagine a reality where we just let Putin take Ukraine on day one. We didn't even care. We didn't support them at all, which is what JD Vance wants. And then Russia goes over to Poland, and then the next country, and then the next country. We would be in a total world war right now. So JD Vance's idea of de-escalation is letting Vladimir Putin get away with it.
And the reason I say that is because we have a leadership in this country that is constantly focused on stuff that has nothing to do with citizens in our country, has nothing to do with serving the middle-class citizens of my state of Ohio.
I'm sorry, is he going to bring up Ohio after he just divided the entire state on Haitian migrants who are there legally, who are there under a federal program that was expanded under the Trump administration? JD Vance is a complete hypocrite, and I want to show you this amazing video. This is the live streamer Destiny ripping apart a Putin apologist in 90 seconds. This may be the most thorough debunking of every single anti-Ukraine argument in one clip. Watch.
The idea that you can just move in and take over places because there might be some conflict there just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any more sense than if Southern California suddenly had a bunch of Mexican separatists there that wanted to break that away and have them join Mexico. The rest of the world wouldn't say, well, United States, you just have to kind of cede your sovereignty there and allow some of your states to break away and join Mexico. Of course not. We would hold on to that land because it's our sovereign territory. And since 1991, Ukraine has had distinct borders that have been recognized by not only the rest of the world, but Russia itself, and no amount of separatist movements, especially ones that are funded by Russia, allow them to break away and just join Russia. And then the reason why I don't like to go back historically is because when people want to go back historically, they only go back so far. You know, you hear Putin and you hear all these other people talk about, well, you know, the people in the East, you know, they feel Russian, they speak Russian, they've got a lot of Russian ethnic roots. Yeah, of course, that's because during events like the Holodomor, millions of Ukrainians were forcibly starved to death, their wheat was requisitioned, and people that were trying to flee towns were shot and murdered by Soviet troops. So after millions of people die and hundreds of thousands of Russians, ethnic Russians, are shipped in, which the Soviet Union did to all of their little republics that they had gotten as part of the Soviet Union, to go back into the past and then to come forward into the future and say, well, look, there's a lot of ethnic Russians there now, to say that a prior genocide can supersede the sovereign borders drawn around a country in 1991, and then we go forward to 2020 and say, well, look, there's a lot of ethnic Russians there. That's just absolutely bizarre to me. I think that when we frame the conversation, I think we have to stop saying, well, Russia's worried about this, so they should be able to invade, or Russia likes this, so they should be able to take that. Let's look at it from the Ukraine perspective. They have a country that was recognized internationally with borders since 1991. What right does Russia or any other country have to come in and steal territory from them? I haven't heard a single justification for that.
Amazingly well said. And the thing is, Russian disinformation is so pervasive in the mainstream media. I mean, Tucker Carlson used to have a show on Fox News and would spit out Russian disinformation verbatim. Vivek Ramaswamy is getting a show on Fox News. He spews disinformation straight from the Kremlin. I've talked to him about it before. You have people like Candace Owens, people like Elon Musk, who bought Twitter and is now using it to boost Russian disinformation, boost AI videos, and has removed the fact check mechanism on his own account. I want to move on to some other clips of JD Vance just being a weirdo. In this clip, he is quoting Nixon and saying that professors are the enemy.
I think in this movement of national conservatism, what we need more than inspiration is we need wisdom. And there was a wisdom in what Richard Nixon said approximately 40, 50 years ago. He said, and I quote, "The professors are the enemy."
Keep in mind, this dude went to an elite university and then immediately turned his back on not only the university, but the transgender friend he met in the university. He made his professors delete his old pro-immigration posts. This man has completely changed who he is, yet he calls professors the enemy. Maybe he would have more integrity if he listened to his professors, and maybe he wouldn't be quoting Nixon, who probably should have also listened to his professors. This is also JD Vance today in Michigan, claiming they shot at Trump. I hate when they use this word, they. You know the implication there. They're saying Democrats, the deep state, the enemies shot at Donald Trump when they've both been Republicans.
You know, but I had this conversation, and I had this conversation with the president about 1:45 on Sunday, the day that he was shot. And he called me. I was home with my 7-year-old son in Cincinnati, and he said, "JD, they just tried to do it again." I said, "They tried to do what again?" And he said, "Well, they tried to shoot me."
By they, you mean Republicans, right? You mean Trump voters. And here is a clip of Trump saying that if senior citizens don't vote, they need their head checked.
Our seniors have been devastated by inflation. We're going to have no tax on Social Security for our seniors. If any senior doesn't vote for Trump, we're going to have to send you to a psychiatrist to have your head examined.
Someone in the reply said, calling other people stupid for not supporting him when he is the king of stupidity is an incredible electoral strategy. That is very, very true. I don't know what he's thinking deriding every single group that he needs to appeal to. He looks at Jewish Americans and says, you know, 70% of you support Democrats. I want more of you. You need to get your head checked. He immediately begins to be divisive. He says the same thing about Muslim Americans or women. He says weird stuff about protecting women all the time. A president's not supposed to be a protector of women. He's supposed to represent us. Either way, if you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, make sure you leave a like, drop a blue heart, hit that subscribe button, and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.